Good morning, everyone. My name is Pamela Stearns. I am Tlingit. My traditional name is Kajasti. I am very excited and honored to welcome you to the Indigenous Peoples Day King County Proclamation. But before we get started, I want to introduce Dwayne Sunnyboy Summers from the Duwamish tribe, who's offered to sing us an honor and prayer song to get us started. Ganeshish, thank you.
Good morning. I'm King County Executive Dow Constantine. It's my honor to join all of you today in celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day. I'd like to thank my friend Councilmember Larry Gossett for joining me in partnership in drafting and signing the proclamation that we will present today. King County, like every community in this country, is built upon the lands, the territories, the villages of Indigenous peoples. The United States must recognize and atone for its shameful history of exploitation and systematic racism toward the Indigenous people of this land. Illegal acts under the authority of the United States government, including forced relocations, seizure of tribal lands, and the theft of rights to natural resources, impoverished and decimated the original inhabitants of this land. These actions contribute directly to the widespread poverty and social inequities that impact Native communities to this day. Recently, advocates have also shined a light on the long-standing and ongoing violence against Native women, a situation that was dramatically confirmed in a recent local study. On Indigenous Peoples Day, we in King County reaffirm our commitment to promote the well-being of local and regional American Indian, Native, or Alaskan Native and Indigenous communities. There is no better or more appropriate way to honor our country's Indigenous roots than by ensuring greater access and opportunity to the descendants of this nation's true founders. Thank you again for joining us today. Councilmember Gossett.
I'd like to begin by thanking our County Executive, Dow Constantine, for his comments. I'd like to thank Sonny for the excellent song that he led us off with, reminding me and all of you of the tradition of Indigenous people in terms of starting off all major occasions with songs and special prayer. I'd like to thank the native tribes who back in 1977, I believe, went to the United Nations and declared and exposed that here in this country, the original inhabitants did not have special holidays, special occasions that the entire nation and the entire world was recommended and encouraged to pay tribute to. And beginning this fine and excellent tradition, I'd like to thank the city of Seattle for 2 or 3 or 4 years ago voting and declaring this week Indigenous Peoples Day or Week. And finally, I'd like to thank all the folks that, starting with Pamela, who made this occasion possible. It is my opinion that Seattle is really a great place to have these kind of recognition services because we have a long tradition of people of color working together to bring about change that benefits all our people. I am particularly proud of being the only person standing that was an original member of the Gang of Four, where Bernie White Bear, Roberto Mastas, and Bob Santos and I organized throughout this community. So before Dow and I read a very special proclamation that he and I and our staff put together on this occasion, we have a couple other folks that we'd like to hear from that represents you. And I just want to say this tradition of having a lot of non-Indians at a lot of places, including this Saturday at Westlake Mall, always start their occasions, affairs, demonstrations, or whatever it might be, by paying tribute to the original peoples of this land. I think that's healthy and extremely respectful. So without further ado, I would like Catherine Festa and Tristan Gardner to come and make some a statement about today, and then Down I will read the formal proclamation.
Good morning. I would like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on traditional land of the Duwamish tribe and pay my respect to the elders of both the past and the present. I am Catherine Festa, Raven of the Haida tribe from Gossett, Haida Gwaii Islands, formerly known as the Queen Charlottes. Thank you to Executive Constantine, Matias Valenzuela, Councilmember Gossett, Casey Sixkiller, and Pamela Stearns. In recognition of Indigenous Day, I am proud to accept this proclamation on behalf of other Native Americans throughout King County who couldn't be here today. On Friday, I was at the credit union and the teller said, "I have a 3-day weekend." I said, "That's nice." He goes, "We have Monday off in recognition of Indigenous Day." Very proud moment. Cities, states, and universities across the country have been pushing to drop Columbus Day in favor of celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day. I'm glad that the city of Seattle has followed. Millions of our people were displaced by Columbus upon his arrival in 1620. 90% of the native population died. When my mother was 5 years old and she was taken from her family and placed in a boarding school in Alert Bay, Vancouver Island, I asked my mother about her 6 years at the school, and she said, "I got 3 meals a day." That was all she had to say about it. But she lost her culture. She lost her language. My sister and my niece are learning how to speak Haida. They dance and sing in our traditional ways, bringing our culture back. Hawa, thank you in Haida.
Thank you. And thank you all for having us speak here today. My name is Tristan Gardner, and my family is Blackfeet. We have a hidden story a history that is more than just a story of conquest and disease and rape and genocide. It's a story that is more than the broken agreements and the systematic oppression that has destroyed so many groups and so many peoples that live here. We, in addition to this, we have stories of love, we have stories of hope, we have stories and songs and prayers like the one we heard earlier today. And this, today, having this be Indigenous Peoples Day, and recognizes all of these stories and recognizes all of the work that people like Pamela and people like other people here have done to make sure that our culture and heritage do not die and do not get erased after so many years of people trying to get it to be erased. So this is really important to me. This is really important to a lot of people I know. And so thank you. Thank you for doing this. This is a great first step. And above all, thank you to all the strong Native women who I see in front of me who have led this charge and who are our backbone and who are going to help us do so many more things. Thank you again.
Please be seated. Yes, you can join us. So as we do, we will now present the proclamation. Councilmember Gossett and I will take turns reading the passages from it. And again, I want to thank everyone for allowing us this moment. Whereas King County is built upon the homelands, territories, and villages of the Indigenous people of the Puget Sound region who have occupied these lands since time immemorial. And
whereas King County acknowledges the long history of systematic racism towards Indigenous people in the United States and the colonization that have led to high rates of poverty, inadequate education, forced relocations, and violence against women, and King County pledges to pursue policies and practices that will aid closing the equity gaps, honoring our nation's Indigenous roots and history, and ensuring greater access to opportunity and equity. And
whereas King County values the many contributions made by Indigenous people's knowledge, labor, technology, science, philosophy, arts, as well as the cultural contributions that have substantially shaped the character of Seattle and King County. And
whereas Indigenous Peoples Day was first proposed in 1977, I was right, by a delegation of Native nations to the United Nations, sponsored International Conference on Discrimination against Indigenous Population in the Americas. And
whereas in 2011, the affiliated tribes of Northwest Indians representing 59 tribes of Washington, Oregon, Alaska, Idaho, Northern California, and Western Montana passed a resolution to change Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. And
whereas on Indigenous Peoples Day, we reaffirm our commitment to promote the well-being of our local and regional American, Indian, Alaska Native, and Indigenous communities.
now, therefore, we, King County Executive Dow Constantine and King County Councilmember Larry Gossett, declare October 8th, 2018 as Indigenous Peoples Day in King County and encourage all residents to join in this celebration. Thank you.